Right now at 6, a family in shock after learning their loved one was killed, authorities say, by an out-of-control driver.
Talking to him 30 minutes ago, none of it made sense.
As we hear from one of the survivors caught up in the chaos. Plus, how a sudden policy change could put thousands of patients at risk.
Finding a new provider, starting back from zero, going through the loopholes again.
And later,
I'm Jay Coulter, and coming up at 6, you'll hear how Portland police are now using drones on some sensitive calls.
Good evening. We begin with that heartbreaking update in Northeast Portland after authorities identified the father they say was killed by an out-of-control vehicle speeding down the sidewalk. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. Let's get right to Celine Stevens live along Northeast MLK and Jarrett near a growing memorial. And Celine, we also learned his 12-year-old son was with him at the time.
David, that's right. I spoke with that man's ex-wife who said that she saw him on the morning of the crash as he was going with his 12-year-old son to go get food. She said that her son was right next to his dad when he was hit by that driver, the impact killing him and leaving her and her family in a world of pain.
He's like, I was talking to Dad, Mom. I was right next to him. And he's like, we're basically touching arms. I turned around and Dad was just gone. He goes, I don't even know. He goes, Dad was gone.
Angeline McKinney Craig and Deron Craig shared 4 children together.
He always cooked for them, always played with them, always went to the park with them, rode bikes with them. He was always up for doing what they wanted to do.
She says her ex-husband came to her house Thursday morning to take the kids out for food. It was when he and their son were walking back home that Deron and another pedestrian were hit by this gray Ford Escape seen in this security footage that was hurtling down Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard early Thursday afternoon. We cut the video before one of the people hit comes into frame.
And he was just bawling. He said, it's my fault. It's my fault, Mom. He said if we weren't coming back from Subway, he would have never got hit. I just tried to reassure him that it wasn't his fault.
Angeline was coming back home when she saw the crashed vehicles and got out of her car to make sure everyone was okay. She then soon learned her ex-husband was hit further down the street.
I just knew he was gone, and I just held his hand and checked his pulse. And they said they were going to try to get his pulse back.
She and her children left stunned.
Just feeling like I was in a dream. I was just talking to him 30 minutes ago. None of it made sense. I couldn't make sense of it.
In addition to Deron and another pedestrian, the driver hit multiple other cars, injuring other drivers like DeMarco Owens after hitting him head on.
My first initial reaction was like, this is not real, and I couldn't do anything to prevent him from hitting me, so I just accepted that's what was happening.
Owens leaving flowers at the memorial for Deron despite being in pain himself.
I was inside the car for about a good 20 minutes. I was actually trapped in there. I was unable to get out, and the door was crushed, and they had to cut the door open and remove me from my vehicle.
Now, Angeline is left to raise money for a funeral.
I just want somewhere they can go say goodbye to their dad and talk to him or sit down with him, touch his headstone. He passed away doing what he loved, taking his kids out and getting them a treat.
Now, Owens says that he does believe that this was an intentional act. However, police say they don't think so. However, police also said that driver had 2 prosthetic legs, but also just clarified today that the Ford he was driving was not modified in any way outside of a platform mounted to the trailer hitch, and all driver controls were standard. That driver is currently not facing any charges. David?
So much pain for so many people. Celine Stevens in Northeast Portland. Thanks, Celine. Okay, let's turn now to a weather impact alert as we take a live look from our Rose City Sky Camera. 81 degrees in downtown Portland right now, though we are about to heat up as we head into the weekend and beyond. Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafino here with a first look at your weekend forecast. Hey there, Matt.
Hey, David. Yeah, we still have one more transition day before we get into the hot days on Sunday and Monday. We have weather impact alerts up for Sunday and Monday. Very hot, and a warm night in between. Sunday night into Monday morning will only drop into the mid, maybe even upper 60s, so one of the warmer nights of the summer. So plan your access to cooling now if you've got some outdoor stuff you need to take care of this weekend. Maybe try to do it tomorrow when it's not as hot as opposed to Sunday when it'll be hotter, and go easy during the afternoons during the hottest parts of the day because it is going to be hot. There's an extreme heat warning up for the Portland area, the Willamette Valley, Clark County, and the Gorge. Extreme heat watch up east of that. That'll be converted to a warning. And then this orange area, heat advisory, which means it's hot enough to be concerned about, but not as hot as the area that has the extreme heat warning up, where temperatures down the valley might actually reach 100 degrees. In Portland, I think we'll top out several degrees below that, but still a couple of our hottest days of the summer on tap. So what about the humidity? Comes up a bit on Sunday afternoon, but it never really gets into the uncomfortable area. Drops on down in the afternoon Monday or Sunday, and then really drops off as we go to Tuesday and Wednesday as cooler and drier air begins to roll our way. But we are looking at mid-80s tomorrow. So again, tomorrow's a day to get your chores, outdoor chores done while it's not as hot. Mid-90s Sunday and a couple degrees warmer than that on Monday. David?
Here it comes. Here we go. Thanks, Matt. Okay, with those temperatures set to soar into the 90s, as Matt mentioned, Sunday and Monday, local health officials are urging people to take precautions when it comes to heat stroke or heat exhaustion. They recommend you stay indoors during the hottest parts of the day, drink plenty of water, and wear lightweight clothing. If you don't have AC, stay with friends or family who do, or head to a cooling center if one's available. As of right now, given those forecast highs, Multnomah County says it is not planning to open cooling centers. We'll be sure to update you, of course, if that changes. In your headlines now, the Marion County Sheriff's Office is looking for a missing 68-year-old woman with Alzheimer's and dementia. They say Deborah Kenfield was last seen around 1:15 this afternoon on St. Louis Road Northeast, just outside of Jervis. She was wearing gray shorts, blue Crocs, and a red sweatshirt. If you see her, call 911 immediately. Portland police have arrested a woman accused of stabbing a driver for TriMet's Lyft paratransit service. This was just before midnight near Northeast Gleason and 116th. TriMet telling police a passenger was causing a disturbance and refused to get off. They say two Lyft supervisors then showed up and appeared to have calmed her down. That is when they say 54-year-old Princess Harris pulled out a knife and stabbed both of them, one in the neck. Neither were seriously hurt. Harris is now charged with assault. And Portland police are taking crime fighting to new heights, you might say, in this case by using a drone to respond to a burglary and to safely find the suspects with the homeowner still inside. This was early this morning at an Airbnb near Southeast 25th and Belmont, and Jake Holter has the story.
Do not want you to get hurt.
Just after midnight Friday morning, police on the scene of a burglary at an Airbnb. The owner had called 911 saying people were in the home that shouldn't be. When officers arrived, they called for the suspects to come out of the home.
This is the Portland Police. You're completely surrounded.
When they didn't, police used a drone to enter the home and look around, with the permission of the owner. After finding nothing, police went in where they discovered the two suspects in the attic. 33-year-old Kyle Davis and 21-year-old Magdalene Falkenberg were escorted out of the home, both charged with burglary. Sergeant Kevin Allen with Portland Police says entering homes with drones is new for the department, but says it's a much safer way to make an initial contact.
We would like to have as much information about what's happening in that house before we ever send an officer in, because that gives us options. That gives us the ability to safely resolve a situation without there being a force event or confrontation of some kind.
The drone program is only about a year old, but Allen says the officers feel much safer in these situations having a drone go in first. Jake Holter, KGW News.
Now at 6, a big healthcare policy change means thousands of Oregonians could now lose access to behavioral health treatment and their current therapists. Evan Watson's here. Evan, this is all because Care Oregon, as a nonprofit health plan, is changing its rules, citing federal Medicaid cuts. What are you learning?
Yeah, David, this all started a couple of years ago. Care Oregon made a change there to expand options, upping its behavioral health network to meet a growing need and allowing payments to non-contracted providers and therapists. Well, now the organization is closing that door. It means 15,000 people could lose coverage and some providers might have to close.
It took years for Viana Ricchino to find the right therapist who could help her with complex PTSD.
You can go through so many that don't fit and you try to make it work, but when you finally do find that perfect pair of jeans, that perfect provider, that mental health provider, you realize how comfortable and how beautiful, you look and can be and feel.
A Care Oregon policy change, making non-contracted providers ineligible for Medicaid payments, means Ricchino and thousands of other Oregon health plan members might have to start over.
Finding a new provider, starting back from zero, going through the loopholes again.
Many therapists and providers say they're outraged and concerned. The policy change includes an October 1st deadline.
with only 60 days notice, it's an incredibly irresponsible decision that is completely negligent of not only of providers and our businesses, but of clients and their well-being.
With waiting lists and high demand, is it fair to say that many clients will struggle to find a new therapist?
Yeah, absolutely.
Care Oregon says the change is needed to cut costs after Congress passed Medicaid cuts through President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill, saying the policy change will allow Care Oregon to continue meeting the needs of our members under new financial constraints, including sweeping federal Medicaid cuts. We understand it is challenging to change providers, and we will work to minimize any disruption by reaching out directly to impacted members to help them transition smoothly to contracted providers. Chelsea Harrington, owner and clinical director of Bridges Therapy and a non-contracted provider, says her practice might have to close after losing more than 100 Care Oregon clients.
So much of what we talk about in Oregon about our future as a state is increasing behavioral health access. And this is in direct contradiction to what that mission is.
Why can't a provider like you become contracted with Care Oregon?
They haven't been open to contracting for years. Yes, they opened up their network because of the exponential increase in need for behavioral health services, but that hasn't changed. The need is still there.
Ruscino calls it gut-wrenching.
I feel that it will be on the fault of politicians, and it will be felt in our community.
The many providers and patients I talked to say it takes time to establish care and trust as well, and they're worried about the fallout when those relationships end due to a lack of coverage. We reached out to the governor's office and the Oregon Health Authority on this, but have yet to hear back from them.
A lot of people facing a lot of uncertainty. Thanks, Heaven.